Welcome. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our GoWP Expert Series. So if you're joining us, I believe, are streaming on Facebook and the Digital Agency Owners community there. We're streaming on YouTube. So if you're watching there, I think we're on Twitter too, just, because why not? The Restream platform makes it easy. So, well, yeah, but who knows? We don't have to get into all of the Twitter madness these days. So I don't know who's over there these days. But yeah, so if you're watching, say hi. Let us know you're here. We're here with Lindsay Halsey today for our session on Google Search Console. Lindsay Halsey is our SEO expert. She is the founder of Pathfinder SEO. She's a great friend of ours. We love her, so smart. So really excited to get into things today. If you guys can say hi just to make sure we know the chat's working and all of that. So if you're watching on YouTube and you just put it in the comments there and we'll see it. So that'd be great. And really quick, just for anyone who's watching who maybe isn't fully familiar with GoWP and who we are and what we do, I'll just let you all know. First off, I'm Emily from GoWP, and we like to say that at GoWP we create happiness for digital agencies by helping them to become more profitable. So whether you're looking to grow your team with a developer, a copywriter, a designer, or a virtual assistant, or you're interested in outsourcing services like maintenance, content edits, those sorts of things, those clients that you have on care plans. We handle those as well on a white label plan, and you can outsource all that to us so you can focus on growth and we'll keep your business running smooth and clients happy. We also have built the Digital Agency Owners community on Facebook. So if you're not a member there and you're watching on YouTube, please join us over there. It's the Digital Agency Owners, and I'll put a link in the chat so you guys can join us there. If you have any questions about partnering with GoWP or learning more about our services, feel free to reach out, Emily at GoWP. We have a chat bot on our website that we are on top of and watch over there, so you can reach out there as well. And we'd love to have that conversation. So yeah, back to Lindsay. So Lindsay is based in Colorado. She's the co-founder of Pathfinder SEO and a partner of Webshine, which is a search engine marketing agency. And Lindsay also is phenomenal at and enjoys teaching site owners and freelancers SEO processes that they can apply to their business to grow recurring revenue. So Lindsay, welcome. We're so happy to have you. And I can't wait to dive into Google Search Console because that's a tool that I use a lot and I love learning new tips and tricks in there. So welcome.
Thanks so much, Emily, and thanks everyone for joining today. As always, please jump into the chat with questions, comments. I'll keep an eye on that as we go. And we're going to keep today's conversation dynamic. I'm going to share with you a few tips and tricks that you can apply to your SEO campaigns for your clients, for your own website, etc., using my favorite SEO tool, which is the Google Search Console. So the first thing, looks like, yep, there we go. You can see my screen, and this is the Google Search Console, and it was formerly Google Webmaster Tools, so you may remember it as that. And the first thing I want to share with you just is what is this tool and a little bit of how is it different from Google Analytics. And it is Google Search Console, I think of as my communication channel with Google, where I get feedback from Google about how they are crawling and indexing my websites, my clients' websites, and I can get insight into performance data, and everything in the Search Console is SEO specific. So it's all about that organic or free traffic from Google. The difference between Google Search Console and Google Analytics is that Google Analytics is your all-encompassing web analytics tool. So it looks at page performance, it looks at all of your marketing channels, and it looks at behavior on your website. So quite a bit different, even though they both have the word Google in them, and they're complementary. The Google Search Console data enhances the data that you have in Google Analytics, but the Google Search Console data is really siloed to being your organic search tool and feedback center. So that's the first thing, is just understanding what it is. It's free, and getting started with the Google Search Console is pretty easy. You go to search.google.com and you can log in with your Google account. And sometimes you'll see your website already in here if you've already verified it in here. So you can see a couple of the sites that are in the system. If you don't see your website in your Google Search Console login or your client's websites, one of the steps you can take is to verify your website, which just means to prove you have a relationship or ownership status of the site. And verifying a site is as easy as clicking on this select a property type, and then determining which methodology you want to do for verification. Domain verification is appropriate for large websites that have subdomains. So let's say you have blog.mydomain.com and just mydomain.com, and you want all of the data from your blog subdomain and your main domain all to live in one property in Google Analytics or Google Search Console, then you'd want to go with this domain verification tool over here. If, on the other hand, you have a relatively straightforward website, which I would say at our agency, like 9 out of 10 times, we go with just this URL prefix methodology, meaning all the content lives in one place, in one house on the website. Then you can go with URL prefix method. And the reason the URL prefix is easier is because it's the version that allows you to use a tool like Yoast to just quickly verify, or your Google Analytics access to quickly verify. So the verification process will take you less than a couple minutes. Whereas if you do domain verification, it requires DNS verification. And so it's going to require a higher level of access into your client's world and sometimes a little bit of propagation time. And so it's one step more challenging. But the process is quite simple. And if I go and I grab a quick domain here as an example, I can just drop in this URL here and hit continue. Google's going to check to see, do they see any relationship between the email I'm using and the website I'm trying to verify. One of the primary associations there would be that I have Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager access and the code is implemented properly. That'll make it so it just automatically verifies your site. If those things don't happen, you can go ahead and use this, copy the tag below, grab this tag and log into your website, go into, Rank Math, SEO Presser, Yoast, whatever plugin you're using, and go through their steps to allow for verification. So once you do that, you unlock a treasure trove of insights and data. And it may take a few days before that data populates if you're new to the Search Console. But if you've had an account for a long time, then you're going to instantly find your access in here. And so what I'm going to do for the rest of our time together is share with you the 4 different times that I tend to use Google Search Console and how I use it. And share with you kind of those insights. And so it all starts in the very beginning. The first place I tend to use the Google Search Console for a client's website is during the SEO assessment while I'm putting together their strategy and try to understand the big picture of what's going on with the website. So in this case, what I like to do when I'm doing that is I get my access going. And the first thing I always want to know about a website is, where are they getting their traffic today from organic search? Are they getting any organic search traffic? And if so, which keywords, what type of content is leading to that traction? Are they getting traffic from keywords that I think anticipate will actually lead to conversions, meaning they target the right audience? Etc. And I can see other things about it, like, have they had any big drop-offs in performance or shifts and changes? And so the first place I can do that in here is in this performance section. So this is just the dashboard, and you can see I can go to the full report here, or over on the left side, I can use this left navigation and go and see the search results here and get performance. And when I do, the first thing I like to do is turn on click-through rate and average position as metrics. For some unknown reason, Google doesn't have those kind of turned on visibly for you by default. And really, there's only 4 metrics when it comes to keyword performance, and that are clicks, impressions, click-through rates, and average position. So one thing you'll notice about the Google Search Console and as it relates to Google Analytics is that this is everything that leads to the visit on my website and nothing after. So in the Google Search Console, I don't get to see how long did they stay on the website once they came, did they actually hit the buy now button, etc. All I get to know about the keywords is, where did I get clicks? How often did I have an impression, meaning a view or visibility on Google? How often did someone even just see my snippet in the search results? Then I get average click-through rate, which is just clicks divided by impressions. So like how often did I win? And then I get average keyword position. And so that data as a whole are the 4 metrics that I get to look at. And as you can see down here, I can scroll down. Queries is another word for keywords. I can see the top queries leading to traffic for this website. So this is the Pathfinder site. And but I'm going to try to talk you through what it looks like if I was just looking at this data for the first time. And the first thing I like to look for is, does the client even have visibility for their own brand name, right? So when someone searches Pathfinder SEO, what is the average position? In this case, it's 1.4, so that's great. And I'm also curious, how many people even search for this brand? Do they have 100 searches a month, 10,000, etc.? And I get that with impressions. My date range here is the last 3 months. That's the default date range. And so here I can see Google is estimating around, 300, 350 searches per month for the brand on Google, and that the brand does really well and captures a high click-through rate. So 24% of those people click directly from Google when they search Pathfinder SEO and land on this website. Jocelyn had a great question. Is this available without analytics setup? It is. So as long as you have a live website that's indexed by Google, you can get this data totally separate without ever setting up Google Analytics. In fact, I have one client that has privacy issues and cannot run Google Analytics, but they are allowed to run Google, have a Google Search Console account. And so this is, for us, one of the primary ways that we evaluate their performance. We don't get in on the GA side. Then below, I can see some other queries, and I can see a phrase like how to start an SEO business or how to sell SEO, keywords like SEO proposal template. And I'm starting to get a sense that the site has, some traction for what I'll call non-brand keywords, people that don't know, who Pathfinder is, and they're searching for those keywords. And then I see some keywords like Google Business Profile contact number, phone number, etc. And again, really high level. I haven't done a lot of clicking or digging in, but my next impression here is that knowing that this website is trying to attract freelancers and agencies who want to offer SEO services, some of these keywords are spot on audience. How to start an SEO business or how to sell SEO. Those are exactly the type of people that this site wants to attract. On the other hand, I see and hear something like Google Business Profile contact number or phone number. And I think, well, this is just general SEO knowledge. This person could be the actual business owner, not the agency or designer or SEO provider. These are just anybody under the sun who are trying to get in touch with Google and are finding this. And so these keywords don't really actually attract probably the right audience. A segment of those people are the right audience. But as a whole, these are not as highly profitable or highly converting style of keywords for this client's website. So those are just some very initial high-level impressions. And I could go on and on about this. You can open this up and start to look at how many keywords are coming in, and you can broaden that analysis of what's going on. But what you'll quickly find is there's so many keywords in here, it starts to get to be a little bit challenging to understand the big picture. And the reason is because any one page, any one blog post can actually rank for a myriad of keywords. And so the next thing I like to do when I'm in this assessment phase of things is I like to go and actually like to do a sort by page. And when I search by page, I group all of the keywords related to one page, and I can start to see how this traffic is coming together. And the first thing that I can see out of here is that the top, I want to say 5 pages in terms of performance on Google are all in the category of Google My Business or Google Places for Business or just general SEO knowledge, how to handle a domain change. And they're going to target that really big audience. It could be business owners. It could be people learning SEO. It could be freelancers. They're really not that targeted, and specific. So it's great free traffic, but again, not the most impactful. But then I start to see SEO proposal template is doing really well. And I can open this up and I can start to see, more, more posts and what else is going on in here, how to start an SEO business. And I can see where that traction is coming that really is focused on that target audience. What I like to do here is I can actually now do filtering. And so one of the cool things with the Search Console is the ability to add filters. And by clicking on this, I've now added a filter that I only care about the keywords related to this blog post. And now I can go into the queries and I can look at this as a whole and as a group. And I can see what's going on with how to start an SEO business and what's going on with these keywords and how this page is performing. And I can see two great things here. The first is there's a lot of search volume out there in this keyword space. So there's a lot of opportunity. I can see that this blog post is already well on the map. It's in the top 10 results on Google for this, this keyword space. And it's not number 1 or 2. So there's room for improvement. So if I wanted to start to think about strategy, one piece of strategy here, that I would be thinking about would be the idea of doing content revisions. So how do I go in and revise and improve this content to try to get it from being, say, on average, these top keywords are on average like 5, 6, 7, 8. How do I get that to be 1, 2, and 3 to try to get click-through rates up and garner more opportunity from this keyword space? So that's the first thing I like to do. And I can also broaden out my time range here. Your max is the last 16 months. So that's as much historic data as you might have in here. And I can open this up and I can also, kind of start to see, okay, now that I have a bigger, bigger space, does that change any of this data in terms of prioritization of which keywords are the most valuable, et cetera. And I can kind of go from what I would say with keyword research is estimated, insight value. So it's based on Google's data. And I get to see, hey, do more people search for how to start an SEO business, or is SEO business profitable? And if I'm trying to determine the best fit keywords for this page, I can see that this how to start an SEO business keyword is really strong. It had 9,000 searches over the last 16 months. And it's stronger than the profitable one. It's stronger than business ideas. But there's some other phrases in here that are really good. The phrase SEO business is really general, so it's good and it has a lot of search volume, but again, it doesn't have quite as much intent. So I don't have as good of insight if this is a good match. So this is the first little area of the Google Search Console, and we're going to actually come back into this a couple more times. And this is probably where I spend 50% of my time in the Google Search Console is this keyword data. And the reason is because there are really powerful sorts and filters I can do up here. I can answer a lot of questions. I can come up with a lot of insights. And this data here is not available in the Google Analytics by default. You have to set up Search Console and combine and let GA have access to it. And so this kind of insight around keywords is really helpful. The next thing I tend to do when I'm just trying to get a big picture about this website is I tend to go in and I try to look at indexing. I want to know how well is the site getting indexed on Google and how big is it, et cetera. And have there been any like big changes or shifts? So if a client like had a new website developed or something else going on, I might see a trend line that looks quite different. And so here I can see there are 238 pages on this website that are indexed. And if I click on view indexed keyword data, I can see insight into like what those pages are and when they were last crawled, and just get a sense of, does this sort of measure up with what I would anticipate about this website? Does the number of indexed pages sort of make sense based on the size and scale that I know? Or does there seem to be a gap where the site has actually 10,000 pages and only 200 are in Google's index, making you think there's duplicate content, thin content, or other issues going on? So I give this a look. I also like to look at the not indexed pages and see what the reasons might be. And, one is pages with redirects. So we've had new versions of pages and blog posts and different things like that. So there might be some URLs out there that Google's still familiar with that are now redirected. So Google's not going to index those. Alternate page with a proper canonical tag. This is when we know we have two versions of a page and we add a canonical tag to say, don't index this one, put all the emphasis somewhere else. So that makes sense. Excluded by no index, etc. This is going to tell me like what those might be. And in this case, it's stuff on our courses subdomain, and then maybe a couple of our links that are actually we want to keep private because maybe they aren't public URLs and things like that. And so I just kind of take a look at this, and I don't have to do a super deep dive. I just want to give it the quick gut check. Does this measure up? And this is one of the things that I check on when I'm doing an assessment. The other thing I like to check on is there an XML sitemap? Has it been submitted to Google? And in this case, there's an XML sitemap, and I can see if I click into it, how many URLs are in each sitemap. And one of the things I quickly notice is the number of pages in our XML sitemap is around 202. The number of pages indexed on this website was 238, so it's pretty close. So it makes me feel like Google is getting the big picture of how big this site is and how many pages we really want indexed. One of the things I love about XML sitemaps when I'm getting to know a client's website is it gives me a really quick glimpse at how a site is built in terms of content types and then how much content is in each content type. So I can quickly say, okay, there's 24 webinars, 121 posts, etc. And I can get a sense of the size and scale of the website. So I like that a lot too. So I do a check on indexing. The next thing I like to do is look at page experience. This is a look at essentially a look at what's going on with three big components of how Google looks at technical SEO: core web vitals, essentially speed and performance, mobile usability, and HTTPS. And I want to see the good for mobile usability and HTTPS. And if it's not good, those are things I really need to dig into, because that is both having a mobile friendly and having a secure website. Those are considered, musts within the SEO space. The core web vitals, as you probably have experienced already, and speed is the area where I'm a little more forgiving. And the reason is because most websites don't do that well in this department. And as long as the site is fast enough for real users, it's not the most impactful optimization space from an SEO standpoint. So if I were to go and invest my SEO time and effort this month into speed optimization, I probably wouldn't see an increase in traffic from Google as a result. If I did that to help my users and give them a better experience, then that would be great. But if I'm doing it just for SEO, it's probably not as impactful as if I were to go and say, write content or do other things. So I expect to see, issues and red flags and warnings out of my core web vitals. And if I deem them high enough value to users, then I'll invest in fixing those. But I like to check this early on and just get a sense of where things stand today. The other thing I can see in here about a site are what are called enhancements, which is really just when Google's picking up on your structured data. So if you have structured data around reviews, products, events, in this case, breadcrumbs, a site link, search box appears in videos, you'll get some insight there. You can also get some insight into if there is anything that's not validating. So if you have an e-commerce site, you care about having structured data on your products, and you can come in here and see, is everything validating as a whole, or do I have any issues like missing description field or something on these videos? So I like to look at that. And then I don't spend a lot of time here because typically the answer is all is well. But if a client were to come to you and you're doing an SEO assessment because the client has had a penalty or a big drop in rankings, you may come in and check this manual actions section. A manual action is when Google actually takes like a specific penalty or action against a website. So it's not an algorithm change out there that's impacting everybody. It's something actually directed right to that client's website for whatever issues. And then in here, you can also see if Google is flagging any security issues, any malware, or other issues with your website. So you can check that really quickly. And then if you go down into links, there are kind of two kind of links. One are internal links. How do you link to your own content? And then you have external links and externally linking sites and different pages. And so this can give you a sense of what websites are linking into this website. And you can use this as a way to start to get a sense of how does this client's website build its backlink network, its authority? So you can come in here and start to see, you're going to see some stuff in here that makes like whoisua.com is, just a random website out there. But you can come in here and then start to see other places where we are building our backlink network and doing so via real world marketing. And so that's great. So these are basically high level pieces that I like to look at and start to understand, and how I leverage the Search Console to let myself do this while I'm putting together an SEO assessment and strategy for a client. The next instance of when I like to come in and use the Google Search Console is when I'm crafting more specifically the content strategy. And so when crafting content strategy, I tend to think in a little bit of a framework or very simple box. And that is, there are two main content types that I tend to create for clients. I either create new pages, like a new services page or a new product category page or something like that. Or I'm creating new blog post content, always with an eye of trying to get traffic from the search engine. So there's creating new pages or posts. And then there's also revising existing pages or posts. And so one of the places where I find the most value in the Search Console is when I'm determining what that balance is going to look like. How much brand new content will I create versus what type of content will I revise? And then more specifically, when I'm getting into the revision side, which posts deem themselves worthy of revision? And the best way to do that is I can, again, come in here and I could say, okay, I'm going to open this last 3 months, last 6 months, something a little bit broader. I can come in and I can look at the content by pages. And I'm going to only look at the pages that I think influence my clients' top line revenue. So drive the right type of traffic. So the number one mistake people might make is to fall into the trap of starting to say, well, I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix this Google My Business without an address post. And I'm going to try to get more traction out of it, because look at the search volume and impressions out there. This is a great opportunity to get more traffic. And it is a great opportunity to get more traffic, but being close enough to the business to know that that's not the right traffic for this business means we're going to skip that one, and we're going to go down and start to focus our attention on the posts where we get the right kind of traffic. And we can come in here and use the Search Console to basically outline, say, a strategy that says, let's go focus on 10 blog post content revisions. And we're going to go in here to name which posts should be the ones to get the attention. And then for each post that we're going to revise, what keywords should we utilize? So we can share this with our copywriter that we want to use SEO proposal template or SEO proposal sample. Best would be a good one. Free would be a good one. How to includes, some good ones, etc. People want the email to send with the SEO proposal, etc. And so we can use this insight and say, this is a great opportunity space. The post is on the map with Google. With a revision, we could get from the bottom of page 1 to maybe mid-pack on page 1. And here are the keywords that we should utilize. So I use this a lot in content strategy. I can also, in naming those posts to revise, I can also use it as a way of saying, okay, it looks to me like initially most of the traction that this website has are for blog posts, but are there any other pages on the website that aren't blog post oriented that could also, use a revision or use a boost or some content expansion? And that'll be another area that I can come back to and utilize. So this is phase 2 of where I like to use it, when I'm putting together that more specific content calendar, essentially for a client, where I'm going to blend content revisions with brand new content. Sometimes when I'm in here looking for content revision ideas, I actually find also ideas for brand new copy. I find a blog post is doing fairly well for kind of a subtopic or a tangential, like adjacent topic to something that we wrote about. And by creating a whole post about that topic and really blowing that up, I could more aggressively own that space. So sometimes looking for blog posts to revise does lead to new insights as to posts that could go from being a section of an existing post to being an entirely, brand new post. So that's the second thing I like to use it for. The next are results and trends. Once we get working, so we get out of this strategy phase that we've been in, then I get into wanting to know what results are we producing, what trends are we seeing. And so when it comes to results and trends, usually you're starting to really look at your date ranges and utilizing this more significantly. So here we've just been looking at groups of date ranges like last 3 months, last 6 months. I can also do comparison periods. So I can say, okay, let's go look at the last 3 months year over year. Are we doing better now than we did a year ago? And in here, I can see, okay, this is a little alarming, right? Clicks are down. So we're down in this 3 month period. This year, we have 12,000 clicks. Last year at this time, we had 15,000. And we can see we have a decrease in impressions. And so that gives me a sense that potentially demand is down a little in 2023 compared to 2022. Click-through rate looks good, and average position is really consistent. And so the number one, what this helps me to do is to kind of say the initial data suggests that the number one reason our traffic is down, our clicks are down, is because there's a little less demand for what it is that we offer and what we do than there was a year ago. But I'm more interested, again, in the things that matter most to my business. I don't really care about what's happening with some of these posts that don't lead to that high value traction. What I do care about is stuff like what's happening here to this SEO blog proposal template post. And in here, I can come in and I can see now that I add this filter, this post is actually doing really well compared to a year ago. So I can see impressions are up, which is a great sign that we have more keywords with visibility and increasing demand. Click-through rates up, average position is down, which is good. We want closer to number one. And as a result, we're seeing more traction and more clicks. And, about a year ago, we did go through and do those post revisions on some of these core pages. And so this would be a signal that that effort was valuable. And we did get more traction out of this content since we made those revisions. And then I can go and I can open that up and say, okay, should I do a 2023 update to this content to try to get even more? Because I can kind of come in here and see that I'm still not ranked, number one or anything like that. But if I was doing SEO for a client, this position difference of decreasing position, again, trying to get to number one, is really great because we're trying to get towards number one. And so if I do a blog post revision for a client now, and I want to tell them a little bit about value that's driven, maybe 3 months later, I come in here and I can grab some screenshots to show, hey, 3 months later, this is what I'm seeing in terms of traction for this post. This is a signal that we should continue on this blog post revision schedule. So that's one thing that I do is I use it to look at very specific results post content revision. The other thing I tend to use Search Console for is overall results. When I'm looking at a report, one of our white labeled reports out of Pathfinder SEO, and I see a drop in performance for a client, I need to explain the why, because I can't just send the report and say your traffic was down 10% or 20% this month. The client is paying me to also, provide some insight into what I think is happening, and then ultimately what we're going to do to try to turn that around. And when we look at a decrease or an increase in traffic coming from organic search, there can be multiple different whys, some of which we have ownership for and some of which are totally external to what it is that we can control. So one of the things that can happen is we can have a ranking drop, right? So we can go from being number 2 to number 5 and lose traction in the rankings. And so average position gets worse, and thus we have less visibility, and thus we get less traffic for that keyword. In that case, we're really going back to the drawing board and saying, oh, did we make a change? Should we do some link building to try to boost the power of the authority on that page? Should we do a content revision here? What's happening? We take a lot of ownership in that department. But what happens when you have a page in a keyword space where average position actually improves? So we're actually, for instance, seeing better visibility for keywords like SEO proposal template and SEO proposal or SEO proposal sample. Our core keywords have better visibility on Google, but we're seeing a decrease in impressions. We're seeing fewer people search for that keyword in this time period. And that usually is external to anything we're doing. It usually has to do with the economy, seasonality, and other things. And so when that happens and you're like, well, we have better rankings, but we essentially have less traffic because fewer people are searching for it, the client needs to understand that dynamic, because that doesn't fall so wholeheartedly on you and your agency. You might still say, we're going to do a content revision. We're going to try to get even higher in the search results here. But at the end of the day, decreasing demand, like things that we saw, for instance, in the travel industry during COVID, are things that we can't necessarily overcome. We just partner with our client and analyze and communicate those things. But there's a lot of hurry up and wait as we wait for the economy or whatever external circumstance is driving that decrease. So the Search Console is sort of in your back pocket to help you tell those stories to clients, to help you go from, hey, traffic is down 10%, to understanding that actually demand could be down like 25% and they're only down 10%. As a result, they're feeling less pain than, say, their competitors because they have better rankings and you're capturing a higher click-through rate of a smaller pool of traffic. So this tool is going to help you tell those stories, sometimes in very specific ways, to help a client understand what's going on in their world, and to help your agency understand that, so you know what's going on. So results and trends are the second or the third area that I like to focus my attention on when it comes to the Search Console. And the fourth kind of big category of times that I use the Search Console is what I'll call ongoing SEO maintenance. And so there are tasks that we do on a recurring basis for our clients to just have kind of basic SEO maintenance. One of those tasks is addressing page not found errors. And so when Google hits page not found errors on a website, it's a roadblock for them. And we dilute the value because sometimes those old pages had good value, and now they don't exist. Something is broken. And if we redirect those URLs, we can kind of consolidate that old value into some new place. And so in here, when I come under indexing the pages, I can go to not found, and I expect, because we don't actually do a lot of SEO on our own website, to see a good number of page not found errors on this website. And actually, I know that in about mid-June, we came in and we deleted some pages on our website and deleted some old webinars with outdated content and things like that. And we did our best along the way to redirect those pages as we made those changes, so that we wouldn't have page not found errors. But it's not a huge surprise to me to see that we have a little bit of an influx, that we missed some along the way. And so in here, I can come in and I can actually try to figure out what it is that we deleted that might be happening. And when I open something like this, I can see this is a page not found error, and it's a great example of something that I'm going to want to go in and add a 301 redirect for. And so this type of SEO work, I consider SEO maintenance work. We tend to look at this for our clients on a quarterly basis. So we come in and say, okay, there are 72 page not found errors. Let's go spend a couple hours of time and try to bring this number down within the client's budget. We don't always get the number to zero because the client may not have budget for us to address 72 errors. But we're going to go in and chip away at the pile. We're going to understand what's causing those page not found errors. And we consider this kind of a quarterly SEO maintenance task And this is one of the ways you can get that reporting done. Once you fix these issues, you can click validate fix, and it kind of helps to flush the cache with Google. But what I've found, unless you fix them all, it sort of, Google just is like, the minute it finds one isn't fixed, it just says this isn't validating. So it doesn't work as well as you'd like, and you still get value even if you don't validate the fix. Because in time, you'll see this number go down. Google will recheck these URLs, realize there's a redirect in place, pass the value as they should, and all is well. So that's one area that we tend to use this on an ongoing basis. The other is if I go and I make an enhancement to the website around schema or structured data, I'll give Google a couple of weeks to adjust to whatever that update is. And then I'll come in to see, is Google really picking up on what I was laying down? And you can do this type of check. You can actually go in and use the rich results test, where you can actually put in the URL of the page where you worked on the schema and get feedback to say, yes, the product schema is validating, everything looks great. But what's so cool about the Search Console is that you get it across every page on the website. And so let's say you go and you add schema to your products and you have 10,000 products. You're not going to manually one by one go in and check to see that every product is working. And here, that would be a huge waste of time. Instead, you can wait for the Search Console to reindex all those pages, group together all of your structured data feedback for products under one kind of experience or enhancement tab. And then you can come in and say, okay, of my 10,000 products, how many have structured data that is formulated properly and is working? And then how many have errors and warnings that perhaps require some manual updates? So schema markup is another really good kind of ongoing SEO task, and another really good area that you can focus your attention on. The other one that I use in here pretty regularly, well, I shouldn't say pretty regularly. It's not often, but when you need it, which is, are there any security issues or other things going on? And this almost will never happen to your actual clients' websites unless their site was hacked or something, a security issue. But more happens if you're onboarding a client that's really faced some issues in the search results in the past around manual actions and security. And so in that case, you may check in on a more recurring basis about security and manual actions for feedback. So not a normal thing, but when you need it, it's great that it's there. And the last thing that I tend to do in here on a more ongoing basis for clients is sometimes coming in and helping them inspect any URL on the site. So sometimes a client will, for instance, say, hey, I'm noticing this search result doesn't look very good, or I have a new page on my website and I want to get it indexed on Google as fast as possible. I can use this little inspect tool up here. I can drop in a URL and I can get instant feedback about this page to help me, get back to the client. So one thing is if a client's like, hey, I think there's something wrong with this page, it's not showing up in Google right or whatever, I can come in here and get a screenshot of everything being green and be like, nope, we're all good. Or if the client made some sizable change to this page, I can come in and manually request indexing just to get Google up to date as quick as possible. Or, we work with, for instance, a hospital, and the hospital wants things really timely, but they're not really a news-oriented website. So Google doesn't index their website like every 5 minutes. But if they add a new provider or they add a new service, they don't want to wait a couple days for Google to pick up on the newness. They want it right away. So they'll send us little emails that say, hey, we added a new provider. And then we can come in here if we need, and we can request indexing and see what's going on with the page and make sure that everything looks good. So that's kind of another area essentially that you can leverage the Google Search Console. So I know we've gone through a lot of different tricks and tools and bits of feedback in here. I hope this helps to get you excited about starting to leverage this free tool from Google, and gives you some ideas of the times where you might find yourself turning to the Search Console to come up with insights that help to drive your strategy, your client communications, etc. The one downside I will say to the Google Search Console and also to your clients having access to their Search Console data, which is perfectly reasonable for them to want, is that you get a lot of messages in here. And some of them are really valuable and some of them are not. And your clients get these emails if they're on this list too, unless they unsubscribe to them. And so when you come in here, you can see some of the good kind of emails and themes that you'll get is you'll get like a monthly search report that'll kind of email you some statistics, et cetera, and try to help you with insights, et cetera. And that can sometimes come up with some kind of just automated observations that are really helpful. On the other hand, you also get sometimes all of these kind of random things where it's telling me there's like one new page not found error. And it's a little bit of noise typically, basically coming through. And so then you start sometimes getting emails from clients like, hey, I got this warning. What do you think? I got this warning. What do you think? And that can be, you can kind of see a little bit sometimes cumbersome and just something to be aware of, of not every time you get a Search Console, notice or warning, is it a signal that you need to just drop everything and jump? Because most of the feedback in here is just sort of natural, the natural ebb and flow of the crawlability of a website, and not indicative of anything that requires necessarily major, immediate action. So that can be a bit of a component there. In settings, I also just wanted to kind of share with you a little bit of insight of what's going on in here as well. You can see a little bit about how much bandwidth is given in the crawling stats here to a website. So typically larger websites and websites with more domain authority get kind of more crawling and crawl requests out there to keep the data in Google up to date for that site. So if you have a bigger site, this might be a statistic that helps you. If you have a small site, you'll probably never look at it. The other things that are really helpful in the Search Console, if you have a domain change, then one of the things that you'll want to do is verify the original or old domain with the Google Search Console and the new domain with the Google Search Console. And then the day you redirect one domain to the other and make the change, you can come in here and you can do a communication with Google to actually tell Google this old domain is now this domain. And so that they pass the value more quickly, and it helps to smooth that process out. So the change of address tool is really helpful in here if you are doing a domain change. The other thing you can see in here are associations. So sometimes you grant access to Search Console data to other tools, in this case, Google Analytics. You can pull in mostly that performance data out of Google Search Console and into Google Analytics. And so you can see if there are any of those kind of connections or associations. I still tend to do all of my Google Search Console analysis in the Search Console itself and not in Google Analytics, but some people like to have it in Analytics, and that's great too. And then in here, you can also see like how you're verified, et cetera, if you've been granted access or what the access level is. And if you had, if I had a higher level of access, if I was a verified owner, I could see the other people who are owners or verified users, and I could control sort of that, who has access to the Search Console. So that's just kind of one last thing that I wanted to share with you is what's going on under settings. And then, oh my gosh, why do I have so many, notices and things up in here? And why are my clients asking me about that? And otherwise, we still have a few minutes here. And so I'm happy to answer questions about the Search Console, or as you all know, I'm totally good taking questions all over the place, and happy to answer any SEO related question you might have.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. That was fantastic. I just added a comment in there on our YouTube stream about I was following along in our own Google Search Console, and I personally really love how Google Search Console empowers you how to go into the queries and all that, so you can see how you're ranking. And when I remember when I learned that, I was like, well, this is so much easier than I don't need obviously SEMrush and Ahrefs and all of that is great for lots of other things, but just for some quick overviews on what you're ranking for and where you have some opportunities, it's so easy to access and get in there. I love that.
Yeah, and you may sometimes see, well, you will, the data from Google is going to be different than if you're using a rank tracking software and you say, where do I rank for this keyword? You're going to see differences. And Google's looking at average position, and each rank tracking tool is really taking a snapshot in time and whatever that is. So Google's taking this big average, the other is taking like a singular moment in time and saying, this is your ranking right now, and then right now. And sometimes there are other filters on there around like geography, is it google.com, et cetera. And so those data points aren't going to be exact, but one of the things that you can do is if you see a ranking drop in a software tool, you can come in and validate it in looking at the Search Console and saying, okay, is there any chance that I have a false alarm coming out of here? Or what are the other keywords doing around that keyword? Are they also moving? And you can kind of determine like, okay, yes, that's a sizable drop in both places. I really should go dig into this. Or, hey, no, this looks like a little bit of noise and something I'll just keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Really good points there. Eric has a good question here, and I'll put it up on the screen. So do you have a rule that you follow in determining when to allow Google to index author pages? Notice that you need GSE and author XML sitemap for Pathfinder. That author pages, category pages, right? There's lots of things there.
That's a great question. So there's a lot of taxonomies in WordPress, categories, tags, author pages, etc. And in the old days, you gave Google access to everything because kind of bigger was better in terms of SEO. And so you liked that you might have a blog with like 100 posts on it, and it also had 100 categories and 100 tags, and it made the blog feel bigger and feel more expansive. And then Google sort of got bloated with, well, now I don't know which pages are really worth like our indexing and that crawler bandwidth and which ones are not. And so now we sculpt that experience more, and we try to control that experience. And really, my biggest rule of thumb is, does the page add value for a user? Or does it add value for real people? And so in this case, if you come into like a blog or something, we can basically go in and we can look at a category and say, okay, if I'm going to look at this category, and this didn't actually sort to the category that we would have had indexed, but if we look at a category page, does it have value? And if the answer is yes, then I let Google index that topic. If the answer is no, then I don't. And so in our case, we have, let's see, we have categories allowed, but we don't have tags allowed, and we have authors allowed. And you can see our categorization is really precise. So our categorization in this case is, we have about 10 categories for a blog with about 120 post topics. And those category pages actually do deliver value all on their own. They have like a little intro here, some filterability, et cetera. So there's value there to those pages. So we give them to Google. In terms of our authorship, some of these author pages actually are what rank for our names. Sometimes we get traffic. If you go speak at an event, someone then searches for me by name, and this is the page they actually end up landing on. And it could be a lot better if I added more about myself and like links to Twitter or whatever it might be, but at least it's something. And so for each of our team members who are active on the blog, they're also generally speaking active. They're active out in the world, speaking and doing different things. And so we want to give Google, that's how we create kind of our individual about pages. Now, on the other hand, if you had a page where your team members each had a page, and then they had an author page, then all of a sudden you'd have 2 pages about a person, and Google would have to decide. And so you'd probably be better off in that case excluding the blog category one and saying the other one is this like custom built awesome page about that person. Let's just use that as like our best foot forward for people's names. So mostly it just comes down to that gut check of like, hey, does this add value for Google to index? And if not, then put a no index tag or just move it in Yoast so that it's not in your sitemap.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you for all of that information. That was super helpful. And it's something that we've encountered also before where I'm like, I'm not sure what we should do with some of this. And we do have author pages for some of our on GoWP because we have copywriters that we hire to agencies, and that they can see some of their writing samples, right? Because they've written so many blog posts for us. And that allows us, and again, it's kind of a page, we put a header section in that gives a little bio and all that. So those are helpful. Those are good pages.
Yeah, exactly. So those are pages you want to keep.
Right. Yep. Good question. Thank you, Eric. That was a great question. I don't see any other questions coming in. I do want to say, Lindsay, we had a lot of comments about how great this was, how all this information is so helpful, how people look forward to the session each month. So thank you. Thank you for always putting together really helpful, really useful information that is just really enlightening on the topic of SEO, because it can be a dark place sometimes.
Well, thank you. And I hope you get something out of this. And if nothing else, just go log into the Search Console and spend a half hour poking around and getting comfortable and familiar with it, and then start to use it to answer client questions and to inform some strategy. And you'll quickly find its value and in its user friendliness.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And we will be back again next month with a new topic. So stay tuned for that. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe so you'll get that announcement, because we schedule those out there as well. And if you want to learn more about Lindsay and Pathfinder SEO, they can go to pathfinderseo.com.
That's perfect. We're there.
All right. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And everyone, have a great rest of your week.